Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I asked you all if you would be interested in me doing a segment weekly where we kind of go over true crime, mysteries, murders, disappearances that are happening in our world currently. So it's kind of like a current events, true crime sort of segment. And the majority of you said, yeah, you'd be interested in something like that. So this is going to be our test run. Let's see if you like it. Let's see if if you dig it. Do you dig it? If you like it, we're going to continue this segment every single week, and I'm really excited to start something new. So let's get into it. We are going to start off, obviously, with the case that we all want to know about. The case that I quickly put up a video that was like 2 minutes long the other day about Chris Watts. Now, if you didn't see my Chris Watts video, I'll put the link in the description box, and I'll also put it in a card here in this video, and you can click on it and check it out if you're interested. But anyways, in that video, I basically said, even though Chris was trying to pin the murder of his two daughters on his wife, Shanann, I knew he had done it. And we were really worried that this was going to become a long trial. A trial that would take months and months and months and be hard on the family of Shanann and be hard on really everybody, because I think the majority of us knew he had done it, except for obviously those people who are huge Chris Watts fans for whatever reason. You know, there's people like were sending him money for his defense, people writing him letters in prison telling him that they had his back, and a lot of these people were women too, which I guess it's not surprising because I know it's pretty common for, serial killers and the like to get admirers while they're in jail, female admirers. Even some of them get married to these psychopaths while they're in prison. So I think it's a personality type. I think it's also kind of a mental illness in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Weld County prosecutors on Monday formally charged Christopher Watts with 9 felony counts, including first-degree murder in regards to the death of his pregnant wife, Shanann Watts, and their 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste. He also faces 3 counts of first-degree murder after deliberation, 2 counts of first-degree murder for a victim under 12, position of trust, and 1 count of first-degree unlawful termination of a pregnancy, as well as 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. So that's a lot of charges. He pled guilty for all of them, and basically he did so to avoid the death penalty. He didn't want to pay for his crimes with his life, and he was in the courtroom, I guess. He was crying and feeling bad for himself and would, be choking over his words because he couldn't hold back tears while he was talking to the judge. And honestly, I don't believe any of it. I don't believe he feels bad. I don't believe he's sorry. If he felt bad, if he was sorry, he would honestly just take the death penalty, because if he felt bad, if he realized and regretted everything he'd done, why would you want to live with that? He is a psychopath. He's a monster. He is the worst type of monster because he continues to play this victim role, even in court, even after pleading guilty, even after admitting to killing his 2 young daughters and pregnant wife. He wants us to feel sorry for him. And I don't feel sorry for him, guys. Not at all. So allegedly, prosecutors have uncovered what they think to be a motive for the deaths, but they aren't going to really discuss that with the public until his sentencing in a couple of weeks. So I am actually really interested to know what his motive was. I'm interested to know why he thinks it was deemed necessary to kill his entire family. What was the purpose of it all? I'll be interested to see after sentencing in a couple of weeks what the prosecutors have come up with. Shanann's family agreed to not pursue the death penalty because they knew it would take a very long time, and they just kind of probably wanted to have it over and done with. But luckily in Colorado, any first-degree murder conviction does come along with a mandatory life sentence, so he will be in prison for the rest of his life. During the trial, Chris Watts was handcuffed and decked out in a bulletproof vest because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who would like to see him dead, and they have to protect him. They are better people than I am because I would not give him a bulletproof vest, but that's just me. There are a lot of people out there who say he's not a sociopath or a psychopath because if he was, then he would have wanted to see it go to trial. He would have kept it going. He wouldn't have admitted to it. But I disagree. I mean, he's a narcissistic person. He puts puts himself first, as he has in the past and he still is now. He's worried about his life and where that's gonna end up. And he would rather live out his life in prison, having 3 square meals a day, playing cards, going outside, playing basketball. I don't know. I really only know what I know about prison from like Oz and Orange is the New Black. And if you put those two together, Chris Watts might actually have a decent life. He doesn't want his life ended. He's looking out for number 1, Chris Watts, as usual. I do think he's a narcissist. I do think he's a sociopath. I do think he's a monster, and nothing anybody ever says will ever change my opinion of him, period. However, I do know, as we discussed in the Alphabet Murders video a couple videos ago, even prisoners and criminals and things like that, they're not super fond of child murderers. These people don't like crimes against children. Even they have a moral boundary and a standard that they won't cross. And I have heard that someone who commits murders against small children doesn't really fare well in prison. So I wonder how he's thinking he's gonna cry his way out of that once he's faced with those guys behind bars. I guess we'll see. Moving on to our next story. A 10-year-old girl in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin is being charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of a 6-month-old baby boy. First responders were called this past Monday to the home daycare where the baby boy was found unresponsive and bleeding from his head. He was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately his injuries were too severe and he died on November 1st. A doctor at the hospital then called the sheriff's office and informed him that he didn't think the injuries were accidental. 4 people in the home were questioned, including a 10-year-old girl who was staying with the family who ran the daycare as a foster child. She had been removed from her own home and her own family in September, and they have not revealed yet why she was removed from her home, but she was removed from her home and put into foster care. And this foster family owns and runs a licensed daycare out of their home. Initially, while being questioned, the girl denied involvement, but after she was pressed a little bit, she admitted to it. She told the police officers that the infant was sleeping and she went in and picked him up and then accidentally dropped him. And when she dropped him, he began crying and she got scared. She didn't want to get into trouble. She panicked. She didn't know what to do, so she began to stomp on the infant's head. During her bond hearing, her biological parents were present and the girl sobbed as the charges were read out loud. Currently at this time, authorities are not pursuing any charges against the home daycare, but since the investigation still is in process, that could change. This young girl, as far as we know at this time, is being charged as an adult. Wisconsin law allows for minors 10 years of age and older to be charged as an adult for first-degree intentional homicide. Chippewa County Sheriff James Kowalczyk has worked in law enforcement for 40 years. He says he can't ever remember charges being brought up against somebody like this who was so young. So let's talk about this quickly because this case actually really got me thinking. The baby is 6 months old, there's a home daycare, and there's a couple of kids in this home daycare at this time. And apparently the people who ran the daycare said the baby was sleeping, so they told the older children to go outside and play as to not wake the baby up. And then the 10-year-old girl goes back inside for whatever reason. And the reason I keep calling her a 10-year-old girl is because her name's been withheld because of privacy reasons, so I'm not, just depersonalizing her or not talking about her purposely by name. I don't know her name. So she goes back in the house for whatever reason, and then these unfortunate events happen. Where were the people who run the daycare? Where were they? First of all, in my opinion, when you have a home daycare or any kind of daycare, if you have a bunch of kids or more than one kid, they should probably all remain in the same area, so all inside or all outside. That way you can keep an eye on all of them at once. So in my opinion, that seems a little bit strange to me. Also, I look at the fact that she was in foster care at the time. I look at the fact that she had been removed from her home really not too long ago in September, just a couple of months ago. And I wonder what the mental state of this little girl was. By no means am I saying, she should have killed the baby or there's an excuse for her killing the baby, but I wonder what her mental state is. Once again, we don't know why she was removed from her home, so all of this is just my speculation. But the way she reacted to the baby crying, it says something to me. I wonder if in her home or even in the foster home, would she have been punished for acting out or crying or whining or things like that? So maybe she just thought that when you cry or act out or misbehave, that you get hit or beaten. And so that's how she handled the baby crying. You know, obviously she's 10, so she has a hard time grasping that babies cry and they just do that because they're babies and that's what they do. They can't really help it. I don't know if she had any younger siblings in her home, so maybe she wasn't used to being around young babies, but she may have treated the baby in the way that she was treated when doing something similar. It also makes me wonder if she was so afraid of getting in trouble that she just wanted to make that baby be quiet no matter what it took. So was this girl often and harshly punished for doing something wrong? Is that why when the baby started crying, she freaked out and just wanted to make it be quiet no matter what it took at all costs? So once again, that leads me to believe that possibly this girl hasn't had the best upbringing. Maybe she's been harshly punished for misbehaving in the past, and that is why she A, either treated the baby in the same way she's been treated, or B, just didn't want to get in trouble at all costs, so she just did what she thought she needed to make the baby be quiet. I don't think that a 10-year-old child can be evil. I don't think that a 10-year-old child would go in and try to kill a baby just to kill a baby. Children aren't really the same as adults in that kind of aspect, unless they're psychopaths and they're like that from birth. But as far as I know, this girl hasn't been caught killing small animals or things like that, you know, which is usually where it starts. So I just really think that she had a warped idea of how to handle someone or something when they are not doing what you want them to do. Once again, this is my speculation. I'm not saying her parents or her foster parents were abusive in any way. I'm just speculating about what her motives would have been to hurt that baby. I will keep you updated on this case if you guys are interested, but it's really sad on all counts here. I mean, a family lost their 6-month-old son, and this little girl has changed her life forever. No matter which way this goes, no matter if she's tried as an adult or a juvenile, really no matter what happens in this case, her life will be changed forever. So it's pretty sad no matter which way you look at it. Also in Wisconsin, a 21-year-old man is being charged with vehicular manslaughter. He crashed his car into a group of Girl Scouts picking up trash on the side of the road. 3 children and 1 adult lost their life that day. This hit and run happened this past Saturday, and the crash killed 9-year-old Jana Kelly, 10-year-old Autumn Hegelson, and 10-year-old Haley Hickel, and her mother, 32-year-old Sarah Jo Schneider. Colton True is being charged with 4 counts of vehicular manslaughter and 4 counts of a hit and run resulting in death. The penalty for these crimes can be up to 160 years in prison. After hitting the 4 of them with his car, Colton True fled the scene and drove home. And the police actually followed a fluid leak from his vehicle all the way back to his home, and that's how they found him. He was actually living there with another person who was the passenger in his car when he did hit the girls and the mother, and the passenger and Colton kind of turned on each other at this point. Both passenger and driver admitted they had been huffing computer keyboard cleaner that day. The passenger claims that while they were driving, they noticed Colton was kind of swerving and driving erratically. So they grabbed the steering wheel to try to right him, and as they were doing that, he swerved and hit the 4 people at the side of the road. Colton says that the passenger had been huffing a lot more than he had, and he was fine and in control of the car until the passenger grabbed his steering wheel and basically a fight for the steering wheel ensued, and that is when he lost control of the vehicle and hit the 4 people. Colton True has been previously convicted of drunk driving, and at the time of this accident, he was out on bail for another car accident that had happened this past September. So here are my thoughts. Clearly this Colton dude has a problem. He's clearly an addict of some kind. He clearly hangs out with people who are addicts just like him. So you've got one toxic person feeding another toxic person, and neither one of them are really too concerned with being very responsible because clearly they left the scene and they had to be found. Nobody came forward and confessed anything. These 2 people, I don't know if the passenger is a female or a male. It wasn't said in the news articles, probably to protect the identity of this mystery passenger, but both Colton and his passenger that day had been huffing keyboard cleaner, which is insane to me. I feel like, and not that I don't do drugs or anything, but I feel like there's so many other better drugs to do. Why are we huffing keyboard cleaner. Why did this become a thing? When did it become a thing? I guess maybe it's cheap and that's why. That just occurred to me. Still. So they both were taking part in this problematic behavior, and then both decided, let's get in the car and drive away. And then they both decided to leave the scene and not actually come forward in any way, shape, or form. So to me, this passenger is just as guilty as Colton, and they both should be locked up with the key thrown away. But the one thing about Colton that stands out to me is he has clearly a past of driving under the influence. He clearly has a past of having issues driving, not even under the influence, because I don't even know if the September car accident happened when he was on drugs or alcohol. I assume it was, because once again, I think this guy is an addict. But this is a very sad story. You've got 3 little girls taking part in a program to help clean up their community, picking up litter and garbage on the side of the road. One of their mothers is with them helping out. They're doing good for their community. They're doing good for their world. They're just out on a Saturday afternoon, doing community service, doing good, and their lives are ended by this idiot who couldn't decide whether to huff keyboard cleaner or drive. Like, whatever, dude. You want to huff keyboard cleaner, you want to kill every single brain cell that you might have been born with, that's fine. Do you. We don't care. But when you make the decision to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, you put other people's lives at risk. And he killed 3 little girls and a young mother. And I just think it's absolutely unacceptable. There are a lot of people out there saying that he should get a lighter sentence because he's an addict and addiction is a disease. And I get that addiction is a disease. I understand. I'm not going to argue that with you. But it really doesn't matter at this point. We don't care if you're an addict. We don't care if you want to sit in your own home and get as high as you want. Nobody's going to stop you. But you killed 3 young girls who had their life ahead of them. It doesn't matter that you have an addiction. It doesn't matter that you have a problem, because at this point, you took lives and you need to be treated just like everybody else. I just have one last story to cover and then we'll call it a wrap. In Detroit, 2 young girls are missing. They were last seen Monday afternoon around 3:15 p.m. when they left to go take the garbage out. Envy McLean is a 12-year-old black female, about 4'11" and 93 pounds. She has a light brown complexion, black hair in a single ponytail with a white headband, and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a pink jacket, blue jeans, a dark blue shirt, and pink gym shoes. Montasia Brown is a 9-year-old black female, 4'8" and 95 pounds. She also has a light brown complexion and brown eyes with her hair in a bun and a red headband. She was last seen wearing black stretch pants, a black and white Mickey Mouse shirt, and black and white Jordan gym shoes. Anyone with information is asked to call Detroit Police's 3rd Precinct at 313-596-1340. The police believe the missing girls may be in the Flint or Detroit area with their maternal grandmother. Her name is Wendy Harris, and she went missing about the same time as the girls. Hopefully this is just a case of the grandmother having a problem with the girl's parents. Maybe the girl's mother weren't letting them see their grandmother, and these things happen. It's a domestic dispute. Hopefully nothing is wrong with these girls. Hopefully they are found soon and safe. But if you are in the Detroit area, please keep a lookout for them and call the number I gave you if you see anything. Okay guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little weekly crime segment. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you want me to continue it. Let me know if there's any changes you would like to see made. Also, go ahead and follow me on my Instagram. It's just @Stephanie Harlow, the name of my channel. A lot of you have already come over there, which I appreciate. You guys are the real MVPs. Also, I'm gonna keep you up to date on everything that I'm doing on YouTube through Instagram. And I'm pretty much on Instagram as much as I am on YouTube. So if you wanna see what's going on in my life, that's a good place to go. All right guys, thank you so much for being here with me. Stay kind and stay beautiful. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you next time. Mwah. Bye.
You'll never know the psychopath sitting next to you. You'll never know the murderer sitting next to you. You think, how did I get here sitting next to you? After all I've said, please don't forget that